Shabbat Shalom.
That with wonderful service prepared by our B'nai Mitzvah students, celebrants, Melody and Simcha, and we're so happy to have all their family participating in our service today. They're celebrating with us. So to begin, we call up Sid's parents, to present them with their talit.
Okay, I said I'd go first.
Cry about it.
I'm gonna. Here's the thing. I grew up with a Jewish name, went to private Jewish preschools, kindergarten, first and second grade, and was always, my mom converted before she got married. Everybody else had 100% Jewish families. And it made community a little uphill. And then growing up, though, with a Hebrew name, I was never allowed to forget or blend in. There was always a reminder that even when I was not in the Jewish school, I was still, community could be a little challenging sometimes. By the time I got in my 20s, and I was at Evergreen, I became comfortable with my name. I found community, Jewish community, a lot of Jewish community. And then it came time to name you. We had other things on the list. Danya Fiana, approximately a judgmental warrior, might have been a little on the nose. But Simcha, joy, is also a little on the nose. And there was a joke that I learned in the time in Olympia around that same time about this Jewish guy who was shipwrecked, marooned on an island. Do you know the joke I'm talking about?
Not yet.
Well, he gets rescued. And when he's being rescued, and the captain says, "What is this building that you have? You're the only one on the island." "Well, when I was going to be here a long time, I had to build a shul." And as they're sailing away, he's on the ship. They go past the other side of the island. The captain says, "Well, if that other building was the shul, what's this building over here?" And the guy's face drops and he says, "Oh, that's the shul I don't go to." Two Jews, three opinions, right? Being a B'nai Mitzvah. What's the mitzvah? That you learn to sight read some Hebrew, some trope, make your way through a Torah portion. More importantly, affirming your commitment to a community. There's all kinds of Jews in the world. I've lived in 9 states. There are a lot of shuls that I don't go to. There's also a handful that I do go to. And as you go on your journey, you'll find what your community is. And I just hope that I get to be a part of it.
So I did a lot of writing and revising of what I wanted to say today because your parents are never short-winded. But I would say that for the sake of brevity, that the one thing that I love about your choice is that you could have made this choice a long time ago. For those of you who know Simcha, you know that Sim has some precocious tendencies. And when we lived in California, we attended synagogue and Sim took Hebrew school, and they were actually encouraged by a rabbi at the time and their Hebrew school teacher to take their B'nai Mitzvah early. But we moved, and that didn't happen, and they didn't take that rite of passage at the time. And then they did what every teenager does, which is figure themselves. And then we're here again with a rabbi that sees you and honors you and has made it easy for you to remember that this was an important part of yourself. And I want to say thank you to Rabbi Liz for that, and this community for supporting us in that way. But I also want to nerd out for a minute and just remind everyone what a gorgeous and beautiful tradition it is to learn another language, and how important it is to learn your mother tongue, because it teaches you truly and deeply about your people. And that is what I think is the most valuable part of today, is celebrating Sim's journey to truly deeply know their people. Because there are some ideas that can't be translated, and some cultural beliefs that cannot be represented in the transliterated service. And so today you are joining the group of people who can read the words about the Bima, read the words on the Torah scroll, and can have those delectable, dynamic conversations about what those words mean historically, and talk about the historical cousins of those words, including words like Abba, which has, of course, Aramaic roots, and why that proves that we are all cousins and we are all relatives, and why that is important to the worldview of all Jews. I love you, and I'm so proud of you. Yeah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehitatef batzitzit. I want the kippah from it. Anna. I was planning on writing a long thing to say to you, but you did me the favor of giving me yours ahead of time so that I didn't have to cry in public. So I'm not going to do you the same favor. I love you very much. The journey my family took to move here was a very difficult one, and now I'm crying. At the time, I was feeling very disconnected from Judaism. I did not feel it was a safe place for me. And I was looking into, paganism and Wicca and all of that stuff. I eventually decided that the thought of a bunch of different deities made absolutely no sense to me. But it was staying with you, reading all of your books, having conversations with you that really helped me reconnect with Judaism, to understand that I didn't have to think one specific thing, that really it could just be whatever I wanted. And I don't think that I would have got here at least not here today without you, and I'm very grateful for you, and I love you very much.
Somewhere. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu v'tzivanu azman ha'tzitzit. Okay, that speaks well for how we're going to go through this. All right. So, if you all will turn to page 187. Oh, actually, I'm not sure it's in all the copies here the same way, right?
187? It should be.
You may join me in English. Either you will go through this door or you will not go through. If you go through, there is always the risk of remembering your name. Things look at you doubly. You must look back and let them happen. If you do not go through, it is possible to live worthily, to maintain your attitudes, to hold your position, to die bravely. But how much will evade you? At what cost, who knows? The door itself makes no promise. It is only a door.
If
And I
you'll
should wear glasses.
turn now to page 640, we'll be reciting the song at the bottom of the page. 640.
He practiced part of idolaters, but it is also from worship from the Gila, is why we match Scotland.
And if you
And it
switch to
disconnected
the
from the
next
speaker.
slide, there you go.
I'm reconnecting to the speaker.
That's it.
As a part of our liturgy service, for the filling of our usual order, we will pray our prayers now for those who need healing from recovery from surgery, those who are ill or injured. We have our prayer list from Matthew, Sally Leon, Richard Sola, Nick Julia, Erwin Marcus, Alina Al, Keith Booker, Ann Jackson, Quentin Hart, Jay Ratkin, Ali Bogger, Kelly Deschamps, Gail O'Neill, Sandy Sandillo, Susan Van Class, Keith Yankee, David Taylor, Nancy Goldstein, Joe Mister, Jane Carlton, Tim Packey, John Placenzo, Lori Greenbaum, Julie Johnson, Sarah Iorio, Debbie Rubenstein, and Mark Tomlin. If anyone else has a name they'd like to add now, please do so.
Mark Miller and Richard Haynes, Linda was looking for him, kind of stayed off and moved up. That like shit.
The heart sick for more.
The Mishnah on page 378. We hold in our hearts all those in Judah, joy of mind, body, and spirit.
371.
371. What did I say?
378.
Sorry. Thank you, Judah. 371.
Mishabera Amotenu Mekor Avraham Meimotenu May the source of strength who bless the one before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing and let us say Amen. Mishabera imotenu mekol Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
And we turn our hearts now, who are no longer with us in body, but will be with us in spirit. We hope their spirits are elevated on our joyful service this morning. This week marks a yahrzeit for Jacob Cohn, Nathan Kessler, Norman Nathanson, Felix Schwartz, Bernard Shapiro, Howard Van Schack, Doris Van Schack, Ava Curtis, William Treadwell, Jenny Ash, Doris Dornfeld, Mark Edward Schonberg, Renee Hayes. And we are still within the year of mourning for Elaine Edelstein, Alexander Poblay, Alicia Glass, David Frost, Loretta Chernin, Linda Rosen, and David Warning. And if anyone else has a name they'd like to share at this time, please do so. And I would add also at Simcha that as special events, normally we say the Kaddish for those who have died within the last year or who have died within this week in years past. But on a special occasion like this, we like to invoke in all the names of those who would be with the family on this momentous day, even if this is not their yard site or what have you. So if you have any such name, please share it.
My mother, who passed on Purim, my father, and my friend, Mike Malloy.
Sydney Rose Martell. Harry Clara Hornet and Pete Hornet.
Born Cottage, Bronze, 598. Mourners, those who wish to join them may rise. Ikadal,
Ikadal Shemay Rabbah, Galmad Yirach Yerkei Amliv Malchutei, Behayavun Be'Velafon, Be'Yav Fonfos Israel, Balav Uzman Vayedimu, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Barach Lam Lam Mel Amen. Yitbarach Ve'Shabaf Ba'ar B'Tronman B'Naseh, Yitudar Yitala Shabbat Kol Birchata V'Shirata, Tishbachata V'Nechamata, Danan Bama V'Imnu Amen. Yehi Shalom V'Yam Shaman, Amim Alayim Kol Yisrael V'Imnu Amen. Say Shalom, we have say Shalom Al Kol Yisrael V'Imnu Amen. Say Shalom Yimamah, Hallelujah, say Shalom Aleinu, they are all Yisrael, Imru, Amen. Yah say Shalom, Yah say Shalom. Shalom Aleinu, Yahweh Yisrael. Yah say Shalom, Yah say Shalom. Shalom Aleinu, Yahweh Yisrael. Yah say Shalom, Yah say Shalom. Shalom Aleinu, Yahweh Yisrael. Yah say Shalom, Yah say Shalom. Shalom Aleinu, Yahweh Yisrael.
Imru.
Amen.
And now we turn to our service for real. All that was preamble, and now you are called to worship with the Barak, which can be found on page.
We're on the song sheet.
There's going to be a time where you will cry, and that's on the teach.
And fly away if I prevail. Are you listening, my friend? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I away and prevail? If I Adonai,
Manevorah, Leolam, Leolam.
Oh, I know.
It's my turn now. No, I said on the.
Your turn.
Okay.
This is.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, even then, a new light was sown for the righteous. Promise that your light would become the cattle, first for order and then for hope. Author of language and light, help us to use words as you have, to cast light into dark waters and draw out justice and truth. Baruch atah Adonai
Yotzer Ham.
Once or twice in the month, a man came home and made his breakfast eating, having heard Leah, Leah, go forth. God distributes or stirs us toward our destiny. By hand, events, by freedom, freedom's now urgent voice, which explode and confirm who are we. We don't like leaving, but God loves becoming. Baruch atah Adonai, Habocher, Ba'amo Yisrael, Ba'ava. Please prepare yourself in body or spirit for the Shema, followed by the Ve'ahafta. Rabbi, help me out. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Echad, ve'chol avanecha u'chol nafshecha u'chol lilotecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ed asher ha'tovim netzachah hayom al levecha v'shnatam banecha v'dibartam bam v'shiklecha v'lecha 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 Shkartam v'lecha 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 All music shall be techa, kuli sharecha. The mountains can but of the camp, bones for life. It's time to shame the family. Ani Adonai Chen, Asher Hotziti, et Chaner et Mitzrayim, Yot Hashem Elohim. Ani Adonai Chen. You may be seated.
Okay, guys, I really want your help on this song.
But you gotta do it. First.
Amet, there is no place where you are not. Even in the wilderness, there is your word. Amet, the pen strokes of lightning, white fire, black flame, stir the soul's passion, guide our sacred way. True and enduring is Torah. Your truth for us is certain and established now and forevermore.
You are.
Like Moses, Miriam, and all Yisrael, we sing and rejoice.
Freedom, 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 freedom. Freedom, 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 a freedom, a freedom. Oh, that way. Catch your breath, drink some water, and then if you'll prepare yourself in body or spirit for the Amidah. Adonai, Sefatai Lach Ufia Gitzefilatecha, eternal God, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, El Hagadol, Hagibor, V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chatzvim, Elohei Hakol, Besocher Hasdeavot V'Imahot, V'Yikedol, V'Mebenuhon, V'man Shemo V'Ahava, Noach Hazera Moshe, Baruch atah Adonai, Mo'dema Bezrat Ra. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל טוב ותושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מחיה דין בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים. צומח נופלים בברכי חולים, ומכיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו, וישמע יפה, ויחמוך בגבורות, ומתעונן לך, נלחמית ומחייב, ומצמיח ישועה, למען הפעולות הכל, וחטא בני, וחיית הכל. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדשים ימות, וישמע מרום, כתבו בנביאיך, וקרא זה ואמר, קדוש קדוש קדוש, אדוני צבאות, מלוך כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו אדיר שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד אלוהינו אבינו מלכנו, בבשיינו ובחזקנו, ברחם עלינו חי. אדוני אדוני בחסד, ימלוך אדוני בגבורה, אלוהי יחדיון, בדור ודור. Hallelujah. לדור ודור נגדו לך, נחצה כדפים שדבר מרגיש, וכשנעלינו ניתנו לראשונה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. You may be seated. And turn to page 250 for Vishamru. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat. Soket ha-Shabbat le'dorotam be'ritolam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat. Soket ha-Shabbat le'dorotam be'ritolam. Chechamim oti elam oti le'olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat. Et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam be'ritolam. Chechamim asar et ha-Shamim et ha-Garet Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat. Et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam be'ritolam. Yom HaShvi'i Shabbat v'nafal, Shabbat v'nafal, Shabbat v'nafal. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat. Soket ha-Shabbat le'dorotam be'ritolam.
On this holy Shabbat, may we draw nearer to life, peace, and joy. May we find true rest, holiness in our deeds, worth in our study of Torah. Let us feed on the love of goodness. Let us drink from the love of goodness. Restrain our thirst for excess and cleanse our hearts to serve life well. On this holy Shabbat, may we draw nearer in life, in peace, and in joy. Baruch atah Adonai.
Amen.
If you will turn to the Siddur on page 256 in English in the middle of the page. We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai, our God and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles that we experience every day, and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O good one, whose mercies never end, compassionate one, whose kindness never fails, we forever put our hope in you. Hatov ki lo chalu rachamecha v'hamrechem ki lo ramu chasachadech me'olam kivenu lach. And then on page 557, in English, beginning with we thank you. We thank you also for the miracles, for the redemption, for the mighty deeds and saving acts brought about by you, and for the wars which you waged for our ancestors in the days of old at this season. In the days of Mordecai and Esther, the wicked Haman arose. Oh, thank you. In Persia, plotting the destruction of all the Jews. He planned to destroy them in a single day, the 13th of Adar, and to permit the plunder of their possessions. But through your great mercy, his plan was thwarted, his scheme frustrated. We therefore thank and bless you, O great and gracious God. And back to page 257. For the expanding grandeur of creation, worlds known and unknown, galaxies beyond galaxies, filling us with awe and challenging our imaginations. And you respond, Modim Anachnu Lach. For this fragile planet Earth, in times and tides, its sunsets and seasons, Modim Anachnu Lach. For the joy of human life, its wonders and surprises, its hopes and achievements.
Modim
Anachnu Lach. For human community, our common past and future hope. For oneness, transcending all separation, our capacity to work for peace and justice in the midst of hostility and oppression. Modim Anachnu Lach. For high hopes and noble causes, for faith without fanaticism, for understanding of views not shared. Modim Anachnu Lach. For all who have labored and suffered for a fairer world, for who have lived so that others might live in dignity and freedom. Modim Anachnu Lach. For human liberties and sacred rights, for opportunities to change and grow, to affirm and choose. Modim Anachnu Lach. We pray that we may live not by our fears, but by our hopes, not by our words, but by our deeds. Blessed art you, Adonai. Your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov simcha ulha nael lehado. Okay. Sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, tova uvaracha. Da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da da ya da 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 da. Sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, tova uveracha.
Baruch atah Adonai Tomed Arif et Amo Yisrael Shalom. We take a moment now for silent prayer. You might use the words on pages 260 and 261, or the meditations of your own heart.
So anything and where they know Paneko Adonai Sri Adonai Suri.
May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable to you, Adonai, our rock and redeemer. And now we set our books aside for our Megillah service.
Woohoo.
Many of you have readings. They are numbered of where in the English narration of the story will be called up. But first, for our reading from the scroll, the Megillat Esther,
What can we do to help you here?
Ya'amod, Simcha, Bet, Emet,
Yeah.
Ari. Oh, well, that's easy.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Woo! Okay, wait, you're right here. So hold on. Let me stand on this side and you that side open. So you can fully God.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al mikra Megillah.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim la'avotenu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehekianu v'kiyamanu v'hikianu lazman hazeh.
Amen.
Okay. Vayehi bimei Achashverosh, Achashverosh, Hamelech mehodu, va'ad kush sheva, ve'esrim umea medina. Bayamim hahem yeshevet hamelech Achashverosh al kisei malchuto asher b'Shushan Mabiro Bishnat Shalosh Lemalchu Aseh Mishte Lechol Sarav Uvad Dav Chel Paras Umadeh Hapartamim Usbasare Hamdinot Lefanav Bacharoto Et Asher Kivod Mochuto Ve'et Ikar Teferet Gedulato Yamim Rabim Shmonim Umatyo. What I just read in English, it happened in the days of Ahasuerus, that Ahasuerus, who reigned over 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia, in those days when King Ahasuerus occupied the royal throne in the fortress Shushan, in the 3rd year of his reign, he gave a banquet for all the officials and courtiers, the administration of Persia and Media, the nobles and the governors of the provinces in his service. For no fewer than 180 days, he displayed the vast riches of his kingdom and the splendid glory of his majesty.
Yachapa. All right, now, English reader number 1. All right, nice and loud. Do you want to come up or are you good where you are? Okay.
And at the end of this period, the king threw a huge seven-day party for all the people of Shushan, from the members of his household to the dish digger. Wine was served in abundance. The rule for drinking was no rules. When King Ahasuerus was good and first, he called for his servants to bring forth beautiful Queen Vashti, wearing the royal diadem. But Vashti was busy throwing her own party for all the women of Shushan, and she declined the request. So it was decreed that Vashti should never come before the king again, and that she should no longer be queen, lest she influence others to defy their custom. But after some time, King Ahasuerus missed having a queen, so he called for all the beautiful maidens of the kingdom to be brought to him, and these maidens lied, unlike Vashti. Young women from all over the kingdom came for the chance to find favor with the king. Among them, Hadassah, who introduced herself as Esther. Esther had been brought to the palace by her foster father, a cousin named Mordecai. Mordecai had instructed Esther Hadassah not to tell anyone of her family and heritage. That is, they were Jews, great-grandchildren of one of the Israelites brought out by the exile of Babylonia.
Reader 2.
When it was Esther's turn to come before the king, he fell in love with her at once and put the royal diadem on her head, declaring her queen instead of Vashti. Esther continued to keep secret her true identity, which meant cousin Mordecai didn't get an invite to her coronation. While he was outside gate crashing Esther's party, Mordecai overheard 2 guards plotting to kill King Ahasuerus. Mordecai told Esther, who reported it to the head of the guard's staff. The treasonous guards were executed, and the matter was reported in the book of accounts. Meanwhile, King Ahasuerus promoted one of his local advisors, Haman, placed Haman, all the rest of the council, and commanded the courtiers at the gate to bow to Haman, exiting the palace. Mordecai was out the palace, hoping to get a chance to talk to Esther. But when Haman walked by, Mordecai was not found. When asked why, Mordecai simply said, because he was a Jew. This enraged Haman, who then decided genocide was the only reasonable course of action to deal with this pesky Jew who would not bow down. He cast lots, or Purim, to decide on the date on which he would hang Mordecai and begin his plan of ethnic cleansing. The lots fell on the 15th of Adar.
Reader number 3.
Haman told King Ahasuerus of his plans to kill the Jews throughout the kingdom, from India to Ethiopia, and King Ahasuerus said, "Do what you got to do, bro." Engage Haman. But then to every corner of the king, to each in their own language, signed in the name of the king and sealed with his signet. On the 13th of Adar, all countries in the province should seek out and kill their local Jews. Once the message was sent out, King Ahasuerus and Haman sure liked their party. When Mordecai heard about it, he tore off his clothes and put on a sackcloth of ashes, crying from the city street to the palace gate, with finger place the lawyer. All the Jews throughout the kingdom did similarly, except for Esther. She heard about the whole situation. She sent clothing to Mordecai to put on, that he might stop his incessant wailing and embarrassing of her. Of course, he refused and kept wailing and wearing his mourning right outside the palace gate. One of Esther's guards came out to ask him what it would take to shut him up. He said Esther to tell the King Ahasuerus the truth about her family and the heritage, and asked him to stop eating. Esther replied to the message,
full of day, Hamelech, Vayomi denot Hamelech, Yotim Asher, Kol Ish Vaisha Asher, Yavo El Hamelech, El Hatzeher, Hapenamit Asher Kol Yikre, Hatzat Divre, Kol Hamit Lavod, Me Asher Yoshit Lo Hamelech, Et Sharvit Hatzehav Vachaya Ani Lo Nikreti Lavo El Hamelech Ze Shloshim Yom Vayakidu Mordecai At Divrei Aster Vayamor Mordecai El Hashiv El Esther El Hadami Bat Benefesh Benefeshek Lahal Malit Bet Hamelech Mekol Hahudim Ki Im Hacharesh To Harishi Ba'et Hatzot Revach Batzola Yamod לחהודים ממקום אחר בית תאבדו עמי בעמי ומי ידו אם הזאת כצאות הגידו הגעת למלכות. This is where I get bad. ותאמר למרדכי ותאמר אסתר להשפיט אל מרדכי לך לכנוס את כל היהודים המצים בשושן יצומו עלי ואל תשקלו ואל תשתו 3 ימים לילה ויום גם אני ונראתי עצום כאב ובכאב עצור לו המלך אשר לא הדעת וכאשר עבדתי ויאמר מרדכי ויעש ככל אשר תשתו עליו אסתר. All the king's courtiers and the people of the king's provinces know that if any person, man or woman, enters the king's presence in the inner court without having been summoned, there is but one law for him, ahat dato, that he be put to death. Only if the king extends the golden scepter to him may he live. Now I have not been summoned to visit the king for the last 30 days. When Mordecai was told what Esther had said, Mordecai had this message delivered to Esther. Do not imagine that you, of all the Jews, will escape with your life by being in the king's palace. On the contrary, if you keep silent on this crisis, relief and deliverance will come to the Jews from another quarter, while you and your father's house will perish. And who knows, perhaps you have attained a royal position for just such a crisis. Then Esther sent back this answer to Mordecai. Go assemble all the Jews who live in Shushan and fast on my behalf. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my maidens will observe the same fast. Then I shall go to the king, though it is contrary to the law, and if I am to perish, I shall perish. So Mordecai went about the city and did just as Esther had commanded him.
Peter 4.
3 days later, Esther put on her royal finery and approached the king's throne room. As soon as he saw her, he extended his scepter towards her. She entered into the room, touching the scepter's tip as she bowed before the king. Esther invited the king and Haman to a wild, exclusive party. The king agreed and told Haman, invited the super exclusive party thrown by the queen. But nothing would really make him happy as long as Mordecai the Jew is still wandering around the palace. Haman, the rest, suggested Haman have a stake put up for Mordecai to be impaled on in the morning, and then he could feel more free to enjoy himself at the party in the evening. Haman had the stake put up, planning to ask King Ahasuerus for permission to publicly execute Mordecai in the morning over public. As a first. But that night the king couldn't sleep, so he asked the book of annals to be brought to him because the meeting minutes are boring. He discovered the plot of the guard who wanted to kill him and learned that Mordecai had thwarted the plan without King Ahasuerus even knowing. He wanted to honor Mordecai, but wasn't sure how. He asked his trusty advisor, Haman, so happened to be wandering the palace in the middle of the night. What should I do to show honor to a man who truly deserves it? Haman, pleaded him, told the king all the things he would want. To wear the royal robes and crown, and to be led in the streets on the king's horse so that all may see his glory. The king said, great, please bring my crown and robes to Mordecai the Jew. Lead him around shun on my horse yourself. So the next morning, instead of impaling Mordecai, Haman, prince to his own total humiliation. When Haman said the experience, his wife Zeresh said to him, Mordecai, before whom you have begun to fall, is of Jewish stock. You will not overcome him. You will fall before him to your ruin.
Reader 5.
Evening came, and so did Esther's banquet. The king asked her what she desired. Whatever it was, even half the kingdom, she could have it. She told King Ahasuerus that all she wanted was her life. She revealed that it was Haman. So she was a Jew. King Ahasuerus was so overcome with emotion that he fled the room to get some fresh air. When he returned, Haman asked, presumably to beg forgiveness, but to King Ahasuerus, looked like Haman was Queen Esther. In a flash, the executioner's hood was over Haman's face. Hailed that very night on his own stake filled with water. The next day, king decreed that Esther shall inherit everything that belonged to Haman. Gave Mordecai his ring now that Esther had revealed their kinship. They reminded King Ahasuerus that his edict was still out in the other provinces, and just because Haman didn't mean that any of the Jews were saved. So the king gave money and arms to all the Jews, all the provinces, and issued a second edict that made fight to defend themselves. And so on the 13th of Adar, the Jews of Shushan killed Zeresh and all kings of Haman. Around the provinces of Persia and Media killed thousands of enemies, and they were safe. The Jews enjoyed light and gladness, happiness and honor. Jews of Shushan fought for an extra day to ensure all their enemies were slain. They feasted and rested on the 15th, while the rest of the Jews in unwalled towns made their holiday on the 14th. These events are recorded by Mordecai and decreed by Esther as an official cause of celebration, thus establishing the holiday for the Jewish people.
Woohoo! Oh, you gotta read it then.
Oh. Vayasem HaMelech Achashverosh Mas Al Haaretz V'ayeh Hayam V'chol Ma'aseh Takbo Ukvurato Ufarashat Gedulat Mordechai Asher Gedulo HaMelech Elohim Ketuvim al Sefer Divrei Hayamim Lamachu Madei Ufaras Mordechai Hayahudi Mishnah Lamalchui Achashverosh Higdu Ulohu Glehud Layahudim Uratsui Arav Achehav Dirish Tov La'amo V'duvar Shalom Lechu Zaru Debarti.
Yashikoa.
What? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam harev et revenu lahadan el dinenu hanokim et nikamentenu hanifran lanu mitzarenu hameshlalim gemol lechol oivei nafeshnu. Baruch atah Adonai El Ha'el Ha'nefra La'amo Yisrael Mikol Zarechem Ha'el HaMoshiach.
Amen. Alrighty. Oh my gosh. Okay. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Adar is known for the festivities of Purim, and March is Women's History Month. These coinciding celebrations have led me to this Devar Torah among all Divrei Torah. When read, the Megillah is a telling of men and what women had to do in order to navigate survival, not only for themselves, but for their people. I also see a story of two brave and strong women who were martyred in different ways and have been celebrated for generations, all for trying not only to survive, but to live with dignity and make the world a better place. Why, might I ask, do we drink until we can't tell the difference between Haman and Mordecai? They were not the movers in this story. They did not risk anything, but selfishly their own people. Mordecai was fueled by his pride in an unjust world that he refused to continue living complicitly in. But what is it he truly sacrificed? His ward, Hadassah of Persia, selling her to slavery. Haman was so steered by his pride in a world that served only him and men like him that he was blind to the consequences of his prejudice, refusing to back down, condemning not only himself but his entire bloodline to violent, irreversible ruin. They were not so different when you look at them this way. Patriarchs with exponential amounts of pride, doing what they saw fit to force their way within the system in place in order to get what they each desired. This is not to discount Esther. The choices she made were hers, and the feats she accomplished were great, worthy of celebration for endless generations. Without the amazing amount of personal flexibility, cunning, wit, introspection, people skills, and political acumen Esther held, she would have ended up as Vashti had. Vashti was a true heroine in this story. She exercised what little power and influence she had, and when put into a situation where she could either move with the system or attempt to change it, her voice, too, has carried for generations. Would you rather be disappeared, burned at the stake, drowned, tortured, shackled, or any other inhumane force being used to manipulate people into staying under the patriarchal thumb? Or would you rather silence your voice, go with the flow, be complicit, and allow your autonomy to be stripped, continuing to be ignored? To be honest, I wish to land somewhere between Vashti and Esther, confrontational queen and appeasing yet opportunistic concubine. I do not wish to ask for something or to do something only if it pleases you, whoever the you may be. But I also do not wish to sacrifice myself wholly, go away quietly, suddenly vanish from existence in some mysterious way that is never truly understood. Really, what happened to Vashti? Snuggle into a noose or jump onto a wooden stake, dive into the water with bloody shackles or cinder blocks binding my ankles and wrists. I hope that I will be flexible enough, witty enough, move with enough cunning and introspection, have enough people skills and political acumen to stand firmly in my beliefs and make change to be echoed for generations without sacrificing myself wholly to the systems of oppression that remain in place. I don't see the mere convenience or comfort in my life as worth the lives of others, literally or figuratively, on a small or large scale. And that is the hill I am willing to die on. What's yours? Today, may we drink until we cannot tell the difference between Vashti and Haman, progress and persecution. Happy Women's History Month, Chag Purim Sameach.
So it's hard to, at the age of 70, decide you want to learn Hebrew again. But it's worth it. Because for the first time, I can read what's above the bima. And without taking out my my little phone and having it translated for me. Purim is often taught as a story of courage and cleverness and survival. It is loud, it is joyful, it ends in reversal and relief. And yet, like so many sacred stories, it also contains truths that we are often taught to rush past. We are told that the mitzvot of Purim is drinking until it is no longer able to tell Haman's wickedness from Mordecai's heroism. And why would that be so? The drinking isn't about a release to joy, and so often associated with the loss of inhibitions brought about by imbibing alcohol, at least not so much as we would think. Why, as Jews, are we told that we need to hold trust in extreme good and extreme bad on equal footing? It's interesting to me. But I don't have to answer that for you because you're Jews. And we always end in questions. We are told that Purim is about happiness. We are told it's about hiddenness. God's name does not appear anywhere in the Megillah. Yet God's presence is everywhere, and there is another kind of hiddenness in the story, the hidden language of power, and the hidden cost paid by those who live beneath it. We begin with Vashti. Vashti's always been my favorite. Vashti is almost framed as a footnote. The queen who refused, the woman who disobeyed, the obstacle removed so the story could continue. But Vashti is the first truth teller in the story. She is commanded to display her body for the pleasure of powerful men, and she refuses. And the punishment is immediate and political. Her refusal is declared dangerous not because it harms anyone, but because it threatens the system itself. The advisors warn the king, if Vashti can say no, other women might imagine they can too. And this is the language of oppression that we as Jews know well. Not the language of cruelty alone, but of fear. Fear that dignity is contagious. Fear that one act of refusal will loosen the entire structure of control. Vashti is erased and replaced, not because she's wrong, but because her autonomy reveals the fragility of unjust power. And this is the first lesson of Purim. Oppression always needs an identity to target. It can be gender, race, religion, nationality, class, any category will do, as long as it allows those who desire power to deny full humanity to someone else. That part of the story we hear. We recognize it. But there's another part we rarely name. I'm echoing Sim here. Enter Esther. Esther is often celebrated as a hero of Purim, and rightly so, she shows courage and intelligence and resolve. And yet, before she becomes a queen, before she becomes a savior, Esther is a possession. She's taken and she is placed into a system where her value is assessed by her appearance and her compliance. She is prepared for a year to please a king who did not choose her for who she is, but for how well she fits a role that was designed by men in power. And crucially, this does not happen without the involvement of someone we're taught to admire, our hero, Mordecai. Mordecai, who raises Esther. Mordecai, who protects her people. Mordecai, who ultimately gains political power through her. Mordecai instructs Esther to hide her identity. Mordecai places her into a dangerous situation. And when the moment comes, Mordecai does not ask, he demands, he tells. He reminds her that silence will not save her. He implies that her failure to act will mean her death. And he frames her life as a tool for a larger cause. And we are meant to cheer. Mordecai is the hero of Purim, as Esther is the heroine. Together they saved all of the Jews of Shushan from genocide. But let us pause, because even in the stories of liberation, oppression can echo quietly through the actions of those who benefit from it. Mordecai never enters the king's chamber. He never risks his body. He doesn't act in places where he would be helpless to flee. He confronts Haman, not the king. He sends others in his place. First Esther, then the eunuch who guards her, then Esther again. But he never faces the execution that Esther faces for approaching the throne uninvited. When he enters the gates of the king's palace, he is careful or secretive, or he is invited. But Esther does more. She risks everything, again and again, while others decide what risks are acceptable. And still, Esther chooses to act. This is what makes her courage real. Not that she's commanded, but that she takes ownership and agency. Avadati, avadati. I will go, and if I perish, I will perish. She says this not as surrender, but as clarity, decision. She transforms herself from an object used by power into a moral actor. This too is Purim. Choice, clarity, decision, heroism. This is the part of the story we hear. We survived again. We sing, we celebrate, we are loud, but there's another part. That's the quiet part. The hidden part that calls us to see absolute good and absolute bad as an equation where A equals B. The story teaches us that oppression is not only exercised by villains like Haman. It can also be embedded in systems and relationships and expectations. Purim asks us not only to celebrate survival, but to examine the costs of survival. Who was asked to risk their life? Who decided that risk was necessary? Who benefited from courage they didn't have to show? And finally, Purim invites us to listen for the voices that were silenced too quickly, like Vashti's. That is why Vashti is important to our story. And to notice the ways we might unknowingly repeat patterns of power even while telling our stories of redemption. Because the deepest teaching of Purim is not just that the tables turn. It's that true liberation requires more than victory. It requires seeing one another fully and naming power honestly and refusing to build salvation on the bodies of those who were already made vulnerable. May Purim give you joy, may it give you courage, and may it give us all the humility to hear the parts of the story we were taught not to hear. Hag Purim Sameach.
Now, So I have like sort of a formula that I often use for the B'nai Mitzvah blessing. But it's a lot of like, oh, now you are an adult and you have your whole life ahead of you and 13, you can finish religious school. So it didn't really feel applicable. So I actually wrote something, which I don't normally do. You're kind of like a B'nai Mitzvah lesson, but it required more thought to come up with a truly appropriate blessing page. So American B'nai Mitzvah ceremonies feel like this stage. At 13 or sometimes 12 for children assigned female at birth, you lead a Shabbat service. You read from a chorus scroll, or maybe you read that week's Haftarah or your book of class, and you have a party. Maybe you do a service project. Maybe you write a Devar Torah. Maybe your party has a theme that reflects something personal about you. But for a lot of teens in 21st century America, I see a lot of cookie cutter expectations about the process and a resistance to adaptation, even when they would clearly benefit the specific needs of a student or family. And the reality is that this cookie cutter shape is fairly new, and the essence of becoming B'nai Mitzvah is simply taking on the responsibilities of one's own spiritual path and adherence to Jewish law. It happens automatically when a Jewish child turns 13 or when an adult over 13 becomes Jewish. The celebration of this transitional moment can look any way you want it to. Of course, I understand the importance of ritual too, and why people have come to yearn for this thing that feels so emblematic of the experience of becoming B'nai Mitzvah, especially for adults who never got the chance at 13 for one reason or another. E.E. Cummings said, "It takes courage to grow up and become who you really are." Through this process, you both had the opportunity to further embrace this core piece of yourselves. Though you are each in very different stages of adulthood, both of you have stepped into the courage it takes to grow up and become who you really are. And while there are elements of wanting to have a better experience to feel truly B'nai Mitzvah here, you also both created a prayer experience that was true to your spiritual needs and truly embraced what it means to take responsibility for your own Judaism. Melody, I know this is something you've wanted for a while, and it took for a few different pieces falling into alignment to make it happen. And I think there were still moments along the way that you weren't really sure it was gonna happen. But you persevered, and now you have accomplished quite a feat. And you can read the words above the view. Simcha, you made it to this milestone less than 10 years late, so basically, you're still in that window of adolescence for this coming of age moment. And I am sure that in the years to come, you will have many more opportunities to further grow and change and find new aspects of yourself to step into. I hope the experience of this course of study and ritual with your family will help strengthen your steps when those future moments of growing pains hit. I hope you're both proud of yourself. I'm very proud of you both. May you find Jewish adulthood all you hoped and dreamed it would be. May many more years of learning and celebration lie before you, and may you always feel uplifted by your Judaism and your Jewish community. Would sisterhood like to present their gift?
What? We weren't expecting a gift.
To be honest, neither will I, but Juliet is prepared.
Partially prepared. I apologize that they're pretty cookie cutter gifts. Normally we give a certain book, but since it was a book you recommended,
And I have 3 copies of it, thank you.
I can't do the book. But then religious school gives the Kiddush cups, and religious school is a part of this one. Ta-da! Now, I feel so privileged to be here and to witness this. It's so motivating because I think, okay, I'm your age plus. Why do I need this? But watching you, you're young, we don't care about you. It's not the same thing for me. Sorry. To see how taking this step, because I feel like I am what I'm supposed to be, but I haven't done this. I have a talit. I haven't had a B'nai Mitzvah. It makes me wonder. You're nodding. You're nodding, you know. And you're lucky you're ahead of the game. You're not my age wondering what you missed. You're your age and you did it. I'm so proud of both of you privilege to be here today and witness it. Thank you so much for letting me share this day with you.
Do it, do it, do it, do it.
Your opening is right next year. Just finding that out. Just a couple of announcements before we conclude. The Manassas
So,
has invited all members of their Shalom and their families to their production of Les Filles. I think I'm saying that's correct. The show is next weekend, and anyone from the Shalom community will receive 20% off the ticket price. Just use code FAM20. The link to get tickets is in the e-tickets, and I'm sure if you just go to the Mac Ballet website and Google it, you can get tickets for any of the performances next week at 10% off. You may have seen in the e-tickets that there was a talk planned by the Poland, the Rachel Goldberg Poland and John Poland. They are peace activists and parents of one of the hostages that was killed in Gaza these past years. They're coming to speak at Washington Hebrew Congregation, but the event has been postponed because of the difficulties flying out of Israel right now. It was supposed to be next week, but it's moved back to June. So if you haven't gotten tickets yet, you might now still have a chance because they just bought you 3 weeks. So check out the link in e-tickets for that as well. And I think that's going to be a really powerful presentation if you're able to get there. Next weekend is our regular Shabbat. There is religious school tomorrow and next Sunday. But Passover is coming, so keep your eyes out for information on that. March 27th, there is a free dinner on our lawn we call Central Park, that piece of green in the middle of the parking lot, being hosted by the Gonzava team, but the goal is to have all of the pieces of our community sit down for a meal together. So the Gonzava folks, all of you, our religious school families, and anybody who uses our community store, our free store on the corner, everybody comes together to have a meal. And speaking of the free community store on the corner, I noticed that the feminine hygiene products are the hardest to keep in stock. They go like that. So if you are so inclined to help keep us stocked, canned foods and everything are, of course, always helpful, but really, really, we need package at home and like body wipes. Prom party is tonight. I hope you're all back 7 to play with us. Torah study at 7 on Mondays on Zoom. There is Mahjong and Canasta happening alternating weeks here in the building. So this week is a Canasta week, I think. Yes, and then next week will be a Mahjong week. Canasta on Tuesdays, Mahjong on Wednesday. Next this coming Thursday, I'm speaking at the Hilton Center for Performing Arts with the Lifelong Learning Institute. Normally their talks are for members only, but it is Hilton Center policy to have all of their talks be free and open to the public. So you are invited to this talk on women clergy today, Thursday at 1:30. And
Is that this Thursday?
yes, this Thursday as well.
Do you know who else will be speaking that day?
Katie Polacco, who is a new-ish Lutheran in the area. I forget which church. And Mother Eileen, we're going to pick the phone minister that I was not. Spanish speaking church. I don't know. Anyway, it should be an interesting conversation. Katie is also about my age, but Mother Eileen is older. That's an interesting perspective for women clergy, even though she's of that more trailblazing generation for being allowed to clergy as women. So it should be a good talk. Okay. Does anybody else have announcements they'd like to share? Personal simchas besides the obvious today before we conclude?
I was invited my graduation for my PhD.
Yeah!
Yay!
Be traveling to Arizona and at the end of April to submit my dissertation, and I will be graduating by August.
Yeah!
He will be Dr. Kathy.
Very good, very good. All right, our final blessing, or our final prayer is the Almeida, of course, on page 586. Neil, would you be so kind as to open the ark for us? If everyone else would please rise as you are able for the ark.
Alleluia, Adon Hakol, Vatet Gidula Yoter Reshit, Velo Asano Kuge Haratzot, Velo Zamanu Kimishpat Hadama, Velo Zam Hokenu Kachon, Begoranu Bechol Hamonam, Vanachnu Korim, Mashachim Umadim, Defendo. Alfei Malachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Ve'ema, V'hara Adonai, Melech HaKol Haaretz, Hayom Hahu, Yeh Adonai Echad, U'Shemo, Shalom. Be seated.
And our closing song is on your song sheets. The day that Haman died, parody.
I need a bottle of liquor.
Oh, yeah, that is why.
So, so you may know that our family is also part Irish, and but usually a part of the touring celebration. We usually celebrate around the same time as another famous holiday. So grab your bottle or whatever, and you can just chug it along with them.
And
Okay. They're here, they're there.
they're everywhere.
They're here.
Wait. No? Let Lex read it. Okay. They're here, they're there, and they're everywhere. They're there, and they're everywhere. They're here, they're there, and they're everywhere. Found a trace. What's found is pockets. The dream of a masquerade. The mountains fly. They're everywhere. They're here, they're everywhere. So look at the world on the day that Haman died. They're here, they're everywhere. They're here, they're everywhere. That's my day. God the day that Haman died. What the day? Tell them the Haman's out. Sit down and phone right five. For love. Oh, down. Our thanks. $1 with
husband, sweetness, aka your and
Shabbat Shalom. Oh. Ah.
I don't want you to strangle yourself. I don't want you to strangle yourself. I'm not trying to get personal now.
That's quite all right.
Do you think? Your hearing aids.
Go ahead. Can you get it?
Yeah.
My hearing aid, that's what happened to it.
I didn't do it. I'm sorry. I didn't do it. It's got the clicker. Go ahead. Where's Sophie?
The clicker, so the parade. I think it's over here. I see it.
Wait. I just want to put it was in English.
if you didn't register for the party, it doesn't matter. You're still welcome to come. No, that's what you said. It does not happen. Does not happen. Whether you're registered or not.
That was just so that we would know, that was just so we would know how much food to buy. And we just bought all the food anyways.
That's the wrong one.
Actually.
Don't leave on here.